Let me now check on what Labor is today calling a lie, a Liberal lie. The Liberals reckon one of Labor's big global warming promises will cost households up to $560 a year extra on their power bills. That's because Labor, which wants to save the world from global warming, wants to spend $20 billion, and get business meanwhile to invest $58 billion themselves to build lots more electricity transmission lines to hook up all those solar and wind farms that are going to pop up like mushrooms around the country. Now, when business invests that kind of money, it's got to get a return from it. And of course, it's got to cost you, right? Even if you think that solar and wind power are cheap. Well, you're wrong, said the Labor leader today.
And what we have opposed today with some thought bubbles out there, so-called costings which we haven't seen, again raising a scare campaign about action on climate change that flies in the face of reality. That scare campaign is based upon a view somehow that renewables aren't the cheapest form of new energy. And we know that that is why the market is choosing clean energy and renewables for new energy growth. That is something that is happening in spite of the government, not because of the government. Our modelling very clearly out there shows that households will benefit by $275 on average.
Okay, let's check all that. Who's right? Will this Labor policy really save you $275, or will it cost you up to $560 a year? Let's go to the umpire, Alan Moran from Regulation Economics, which studies the economics of green policies. Alan Moran, thanks for joining me. Let's cut straight to the bottom line before we explain how you got there. Labor's policy to build all those transmission lines, will it save us $275 a household, or cost us up to $560?
Well, certainly the latter figure is much closer to the mark. It's quite easy to, once you've added the depreciation, the cost of interest costs, the operational costs of the $80 billion, which the ALP is intending to spend, I think, in the next 7 or 8 years on transmission. It's very easy to get to a number of $500 and something per customer as a cost of that. Now, Anthony Albanese says, no, this will be offset because it's going to allow the cheapest form of energy, which is, he says, is renewables, to have the access to the market. That'll drive prices down. Well, that's absurd. If renewables were the cheapest form of energy, they wouldn't now be benefiting from the subsidies which they get, subsidies which are of the order of $7 billion every year for the renewables, subsidies which allow them to earn at the market twice what the coal producers, generators earn, and which actually are driving out the coal generators because they're forcing them to operate stop-start and not to cover all their overheads in the ways that they do. So, yeah, the policy, and actually I've got to say the Liberal Party's policy isn't that much better, but the policy is increasing the costs, reducing the availability and reliability of energy, and really to no other purpose other than some fictitious issue that we may be reducing greenhouse gases.
It's incredible. But this whole thing, is Albanese right? Wind and solar power is cheaper, he said, that's done. I don't think it is, because don't you actually need an entirely separate system, a backup system to support it? You're actually then having to have two systems effectively in one for when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine.
Yeah. And the more wind and solar that you have, the more you have to have of these backup systems. It's all very well to say, oh, well, you might be able to get wind or solar for $50 a megawatt hour, and that's not that much more than coal, but you've got to actually duplicate the whole systems. If you've only got 1% wind, then it's all part of the noise. But when we're now talking about 60 or 70% wind, 60% in terms of the Liberals are talking about, 80-odd% that the Labour Party is talking about, and this is actually in the next few years, then we are really talking very, very serious amounts. And the only reason why wind is displacing coal is because it's subsidised. It's not the market operating, it's the government operating. Governments are subsidising wind, both through direct subsidies through something called the Renewable Energy Target, etc., and also through building these transmission lines. And you have to have 3 times as much transmission for wind because it's much less dense than coal or gas. So basically, all of these things are in there. They're actually crueling the whole profitability of coal and promoting wind, which is intrinsically less profitable. And there's a surrealistic aspect to this as well, because both the Liberals and Labour have policies which are basically trying to reduce the amount of coal in the place. And yet, once a coal power station threatens to close because it's being forced out of business by subsidies to its competitors, the politicians panic. We saw that with Minister Taylor, Angus Taylor, said, "Oh, good, Liddell is going to close. That's terrible. But they've already got to give 3.5 years' notice for closure. We're going to make it 5 years' notice for closure." And even
Alan, look, I can't believe this is like a suicide mission for an economy. And at one stage, and it'll be too late, we'll finally wake up. But, we'll be like Europe, suddenly thinking, hey, where did all our electricity go? Alan Moran, thank you so much for your time.